Okay, so now this is welcome to the third video in which we talk about how to write an essay. So now, kind of summarizing where we've been, we have our quotes, and we have now an argumentative thesis, an arguable thesis, which is cool. And now we have a great place to start off. And this is kind of how, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start doing something a little different than you've probably been taught. And this is how I write essays. And it helps me stay organized. It's like an outline, but yet it's an outline that's productive in terms of I am not doubling up my work. I'm doing everything I'm doing. It contributes to the essay, but it also acts as an organizational method. Okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom out. Whoa, yeah, that's too far out. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take this thesis and I'm going to cut it and I'm going to plop it above these quotes. Why, do you ask? Simply because I am now going to start writing my essay. Fantastic. So what I'm going to do now is I am going to immediately jump into my topic sentence. Okay, for paragraph number 1. Okay, so I'm going to try to stick it in the order of the thesis, so that way it keeps the essay nice and organized. So the first point in the thesis says, Holden as a child is afraid of the inevitable future, but he's also curious about growing older. So which quote is that? And it's going to be this one, as we talked about in the previous video. You had never seen so much gore in your life. It's partly scared me and it partly fascinated me. All that blood and all sort of made me look tough. Fantastic. So what I'm going to do now is I am going to write a topic sentence for this quote right here. Okay? So what am I, the topic sentence, when you're writing one, always has to ask, what am I going to say in this paragraph? Okay? And I kind of said it right up here, but I'm going to reiterate it right in this paragraph. Okay? So, Holden finds his future to be both scary and fascinating. Okay? It's an okay sentence. I would say I could probably tweak it a little bit by saying maybe Holden taking in the posture of a child, and then we got to make it sure it's nice and grammatical. Holden taking in the posture of the child finds his future to be scary. Let's keep it frightening, to kind of go with the alliteration of fascinating, right? And with the perception of an adult, Holden sees his future fascinating. Okay? So this is good so far. I think we could still kind of talk a little bit about this gore and violence in this topic sentence, okay? Because it's going to be essential. I would assume it's essential, and because it's essential to the talking about how Holden transfers into an adulthood, right? So I have to find out where am I going to put violence or mention violence in this sentence I've already created, right? So what I'm going to do is kind of read again, the sentence and try to figure out where I could plop the idea of violence into the sentence, okay? So, Holden, taking in the posture of a child, finds his future to be both frightening with the perception of an adult, and, comma, see, this is why we need commas for coordinating conjunctions and commas, right? So, Holden, taking in the posture of a child, finds his future to be frightening, and with the perception of an adult, Holden sees his future fascinating. Okay, so it's okay. It's a little clunky, but we could worry about that a little bit later. But I want to input that idea of violence in here. So So I'm going to probably put it in Holden taking the posture of the child, finds his future. Maybe right in here, I'm going to play with this verb here. Remember, writing is all about playing with verbs and playing with words, okay? So I'm going to say Holden taking in the posture of a child looks through the viewfinder of violence. Viewfinder of violence to... No, I don't want to use that. It doesn't make sense. Holden... here we go. I might use it as a introductory clause, okay? And these are really helpful to just plop in some extra information, okay? So, looking through a violent, I don't know, perspective, comma, who's looking through the violent perspective? Holden. Looking through a violent perspective, Holden, taking in the posture of a child, finds his future to be frightening, and with the perception of an adult, he sees his future fascinating. Okay? So I think this could be tweaked a little bit better, but I feel that this is still a very strong topic sentence because this is explaining exactly what I'm going to say. Okay? So, from there, I'm now going to write my topic. I'm going to write my sentence, my own words to introduce the quote. Remember, no naked quotes, okay? So, I'm now going to connect the topic sentence to this quote. So, here I go. And I'm not going to plot summarize. Remember, you don't want to plot summarize. You just want to set up the quote. You're not summarizing. And by what I mean setting up, it's not like talking endlessly about the quote, but you are talking, just give me a snippet of information to just get me to where what he's talking about here. Okay? So I'm going to set the reader straight and let them know where what part of the book is happening when Holden says this. You have never seen much gore in your life. It's partly scared me and it partly fascinated me. All right. So this is when Holden just finishes his fight with Ackley. He says, comma, you had never seen so much gore in your life. See? So I want you to be aware of what I did here. I used my own words to concisely point out what happened right when this quote said. I don't go into this long detail list. I just use my own words, and I use it use my own words to set up this quote. Really short and into the point. Okay? So look at that. Now we got pretty much most of our paragraph all done. Now we just have to do an analysis. Okay? So here's the analysis. So I want to explain what I have to analyze this quote. We're talking about gore, but yet he's also talking about scared and frightened. Okay? So I think immediately when I want to start off with the violence. So Holden's view of violence Holden's view of violence has, I'm going to start up in here, paradoxically, spelled paradoxically wrong. Paradoxically, Holden's view of violence still has yet to take a firm stance. Okay? Holden straddles between Holden straddles between a fear and fascination of this violence. Right? His fear as expressed throughout the rest of the novel. His fear, as expressed throughout the novel, stems from his desire for preservation and However, his fascination with violence reflects his desire to enter the adult world, right? And now what I'm going to even talk about now is actually talk about this idea of being tough, okay? He even finds a romantic quality in him acting tough. I'm going to put it in quotes because that's what he said in acting tough, right? Comma, which isn't, let me see, what, in acting tough, all right? In acting tough. All right, so, oh, actually, I want to explain a little bit about this, which is a trait associated with domineering, and that's not how you spell domineering and controlling personality, which describes a personality trait. Let's go, once again, it's all about playing with words here. Personality trait associated with domineering and controlling people. Not a trait atypical of children. Children. Great. So now what I've done is I have, now that I'm done with this, I am, now I'm done with this first paragraph essentially, okay? And I just wrote my first paragraph and I did it in 13 minutes, okay? Am I done with it completely? No, I still have to make some transition words and add some stuff, but for the most part, the content is there. Thus ends this video on the first body paragraph, okay?